Welcome to the Inspiring Victory Show, where we help you double your business, double your impact, and change the world. I am very, very, very excited today because one of my dearest and, dare I say, oldest friends is going to be with us today. He's very, very young. We just somehow have known each other for nearly 30 years. Orvel Ray Wilson, you've probably already heard of him. You've probably already heard of his books. He wrote books that are in the Guerrilla Selling series. These are books that have been translated into 63 different languages. There's 56 titles in them. They've sold 26 million of them at this point. He has spoken on so many stages, it's not even possible to count them. He's spoken in 1,000 different cities. He's also spoken in 43 countries around the globe. He's one of the best speakers I've ever gotten to work with, know, see. And now his heart is so full and so giving and so generous that he now works with people who want to be him someday, want to be a luminary like Orvel Ray is. They want all the things that he's been able to achieve. And if that's something that you really want, obviously we both really care about helping you get there. That's a goal for you. Quick story that Orvel Ray and I were just talking about. Orvel Ray hires me to be his consultant 20 years ago. And long time. I was 12. He was 20. Yeah. And so I come in and I start working with these guys, and he's got Mark S.A. Smith on the team. He's got several other guys. And the goal is they want to get to having 17 guys, 400 programs around the world, I believe. And it was like, okay, this is the goal. We're going to make this happen. So we hang out in San Diego where we're planning and scheming, and I'm working with Orvel on all my, Broadway director stuff. And Orvel Ray is so talented that he soaked it up like a sponge and was like teaching other people the following week. And so then we're having this conversation, and all of a sudden we realized that it had only been less than a year and the entire business had quadrupled. They were 4 times the size that they had been. And so Mark S.A. Smith, the late, great Mark S.A. Smith, dear friend to both of us, he looks over at me and he says, Sarah, and I said, yeah. And Orvel Ray and I have been talking, and Orvel Ray goes, yeah, your title sucks and you will live or die by your title, because he's nothing if not tactful and gentle with folks. And so, okay, so he says, and I was like, oh, and I like, but I love creative titles, and I'm, very spiritual and artistic, and I come from, the arts. And they were like, yeah, but they suck and no one's going to buy them. And if you don't have a title people want to buy, you're not going to work as much as you could. And we think you're good, so we need a better title. So we gave you 3 referrals and you doubled all their businesses in less than a year, and ours quadrupled in a year. And we thought maybe double your business in 1 year or less would be an awesome title for you. And because we thought quadruple your business in 1 year or less would sound ridiculous and hard to say. It was like, yeah, okay. And I said, really? And I was like, yeah, but it's not like creative. And like, yes, it's not creative. That's what we like about it. It's something people can actually pay for. And so this is my experience. I'm actually now arguing with the 2 biggest, brightest marketing minds I've ever known. But their books, again, Guerrilla Selling sold more books internationally than any other marketing book on the planet. And I'm like, I'm not sure, I know you're smart and all, but I don't know. And so, forest for trees. They always say that, brain surgeons aren't allowed to do their own brain surgery. You can see it in other people, but you're useless yourself. So I'm lost. 3 days later, I have a conversation with a meeting planner, and she says, I loved seeing you. And I said, I think to myself, the only reason I ever get hired is because somebody's already seen me. They don't know what I speak on. They don't understand it. And the only way I got hired is if they saw me and they thought the stories were awesome or something. And she goes, yeah, I thought you were great, but I got to go into the committee now. And I was like, okay. And she goes, and all these titles that you've got. And I'm thinking, oh, Lord, they're right. And this big heavy sigh, she goes, oh, I just can't sell these titles to the committee. And I said, well, I have a brand new program called Double Your Business in 1 year or Less, which was going to look surprisingly like, big surprise here, all my old creative title, programs that I was doing before. It's the same program, but I was like, I'm going to go with this. And I said, double your business in 1 year or less. And I get this, fantastic. And I think, oh, damn it, they were right. Oh, man, I hate this. And so she comes back, she goes, oh, I'll call you in 3, I'll call you back. Go in. She calls me in 3 hours and she says, great, we'll take it. And I said, take what? Do I need to send like videos to everybody so they can see? Do you want to see my press kit? She goes, no, 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 no. Seriously, we will take that double your business in 1 year or less program, and we'd like you also to do a breakout session. Da, 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 da. And I'm going, really? Don't you even want to know what the investment is? Because Orvel Ray had taught me you don't say how much it costs, you say the investment is. So I'm learning all this stuff from these guys all the way around. And she goes, no, I have a huge budget. I'm sure it'll be fair. Just send me the damn contract. I'll sign it and I'll get it to you. Take yes for an answer. Right? And I go, wow. So I call Orvel Ray and I call Mark S.A. Smith and I go, you guys are right. This is amazing. And I swear that one little tweak was the biggest thing ever, because you were right. You live or die by what you call your speech. Is it something that fits into a category they want to buy? And does it have enough of a slightly interesting, unique spin to it where they can bring it in as something that's new and fresh? And I never forgot it, but it really did. It just had a huge, huge impact. And I've gotten to work with you over the years, which has been one of the greatest privileges and honors of my life. And the fact that you would take the time to be on this podcast is just beyond wonderful. I adore you.
Of course I would.
Thank you. All right. Now,
delighted to be here. Thank you.
So thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Well, we were going to talk a little bit. You did so much speaking, and now I know you're semi-retired, though I would be able to tell from your schedule. But you did a lot of speaking. You know a lot about getting into speaking engagements, getting your foot in the door the first time, spin-off business so that you can keep that going and make it happen, negotiating fees. I believe you have an entire book on that one, too. So let's talk a little. Guerrilla Negotiation. Chance to plug one of your books. Thank you. Yeah. So tell me, how, if somebody's, a young you and they want to get into the business, what are things that they can do to get those speaking engagements? I mean, I want them to have a great title, because you were right. You live and die by that. But what are some of the things that you can do that will help you get those first engagements, or if you already have some, get more of them, get more spin-off business? How does somebody who wants to be a thought leader, luminary, speaker, has something to say, what do they do?
Wow. Okay. Well, that takes me back 40 years to a seminar that I attended called How to Speak for Fun and Profit by a gentleman who became a dear friend and a mentor, not just to me, but to many other speakers. He and his wife and I were the founders of the Colorado chapter of the National Speakers Association in 1982, the Colorado chapter. And he got me started in this business. And his theme was simply, if you want to be a speaker, speak. If you're not in front of a microphone, then you're not a speaker, right? So this would qualify today. This is way before Zoom. And
what was his name? So I know.
Joe Saba. And
Joe Saba. Okay.
National Speakers Association now has like a lifetime achievement award called the Saba Award, named for him.
Lovely. Of course. I didn't
realize.
I didn't realize you could done
business that helped me along the way.
Love it.
He taught me, if you want to speak, speak. Yeah. And so we started with a list of Rotary clubs, and then JC chapters, and Civitan, and chambers of commerce, and boards of realtors. And at the time, I hadn't written the Guerrilla books yet. I was just getting started. I put together like this 25-minute stump speech on time management. And just would offer it to anybody who would listen. And it's somewhere in the attic of my garage, I have boxes full of Optimist creeds and plaques from JC chapters, and framed thank you notes, and the first step is just rack up as much stage time as you can. That does a couple of things. First of all, it hones your skills, but it also hones your material. Another tip I would have for beginners is record everything. And it's never been easier now with Zoom and AI and all. You can get a written transcript of your presentation back within seconds of finishing. And even something as simple as just take your phone and put it in memo mode and put it on the table in front of you, and listen to yourself. A lot of people would rather go to the dentist, have their teeth drilled on, than watch their own video. I know that the video camera adds 10 pounds. And if you look at one of the demo online, you'll see it was a 3-camera shoot.
That was cute.
I was very fortunate to get a job working with Career Track. doing
Yes.
full day seminars, 200 or 300 people at a time.
Not everybody knows
On,
what career track is anymore. I'm not sure that
I
they got eaten
know,
up by
career
somebody else,
track
I think.
was,
But to explain what career track was for those who there were three. There's Fred Pryor, career track, and skill path.
and
I
skill
think were the
path.
big ones. Yeah,
They were the big
career
three.
track was the big. They were the career, but they were the biggest, and they were well spoken of for sure.
Right.
But explain what they were.
They were based here in Boulder, where we live. And these were, the big public seminar companies. And Career Track got their start offering a program on, I think it was image and self-esteem for women and catering to secretaries. And it was like, it's only, $89. Let's send Sarah, let her have the day off and
Learn something.
yeah, present herself better because she's on the front desk and meets everybody. But
Right.
In the 80s and 90s, that was the main source where people went to for advanced, career professional development education. There was no YouTube, there was
Yes.
no internet yet. There was, there
Mhm.
were books out there, but these
Mhm.
authors of these books would do these seminars, and so I was part of that industry along with Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins and Cavett Robert and help me out, In Search of Excellence, Tom Peters.
Right. Earl
And
Nightingale before that, long before
yeah,
us. But yeah, he kind of started the whole thing. Yeah. If you
and this
want
was
the history of where it came from. Yeah.
this was 8 hours a day, 4 days a week, 3 weeks in a run.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought a cassette recorder for those of you, the young people in the world. Google it. It's had tape inside, and
Yeah.
I could take a 90-minute tape and put it in this machine. It had auto reverse, so
Ooh,
so I
fancy.
could go for 90 minutes to a break, and then change the tape, and then I'd get in the rental car to drive to the next city and listen to the tapes in the car from that day's event, and it was astonishing, because sometimes you go, oh, wow, that was really good. Remember to do that again. Or
Yeah.
somebody in the audience would come up with a funny line. And we'll save that, right? So I'm driving and taking notes and trying not to crash the car, you know, for
Yeah.
in the 3 or 4 hours on the way to the next event, and then
Mhm.
roll all of that insight into the next day and rinse and repeat and repeat and repeat. And so just reviewing your own work is probably the bestest way to get good.
I think so for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think, and also there's just nothing like platform time. You can do it in your living room all you want, but there's something about interacting with an audience, learning when to pause, learning how to, grab onto somebody's eyes. And then when you go to make a new point, moving over to somebody else's eyes and locking onto them and not just gazing over the top of people's heads. I mean, you start
Sure.
to know what those pros do, and you start to relax into more of your authentic personality too, because people will say, just be yourself, just be yourself. Well, you are being yourself in the beginning. You're being your nervous self that messes up a lot. But there'll be moments that you'll hear yourself and you go, wow, okay, that's a real speaker. That's somebody really good. I would go listen to that guy or gal. And
Right.
so it's worth pushing through. It doesn't sound like what I think I sound like to be able to do that. And there is a reason, that people don't sound like they think they sound, is because inside your head, you're listening to what is like a bell shape, and it's more resonant. So it just takes a little while to start getting comfortable with the fact that what you sound like isn't what you think you sound like. It's not better or worse. It's just different. And so that's what freaks people out. But if you can calm down, relax, and just get used to that sound and understand it's not worse, it's just a little bit different than what you hear in your head with the extra resonance of that bell shape inside your head. But you start to get to be more comfortable with that. And, people think, oh, I'm going to hate every minute of it. And then they discover, like what you just said, oh, that was actually really good. Or that guy or gal in the audience shouted out something really funny. I'm going to say that next time. Or somebody came up afterwards and said, I didn't understand this. Or they ask you the same question 400 times in a row in every city that you're in. And then you start to realize, well, maybe I'd better incorporate the answer into that. And that only comes from practice. And unfortunately, I don't think there are very many of those kinds of live programs available, the skill paths I think there's maybe one or two left that you can go in and do. The other thing that people would do is they would
Yeah,
go
but
work for some of these
there are
people.
approximately 20,000 meetings in the United
Right.
States.
Yeah.
today,
Every day, every single day of the year.
every
Yeah.
single
No.
day.
So somebody,
There's
yeah, they
there's
need
never
somebody.
been a better time to be a professional speaker.
Well, and now they want them on, if they can't afford to have them locally or have the whole company coming from all over the country, they'll have local pockets and you can do 6 programs instead of 1 now, or they'll have you on Zoom, or they'll have you on, on their internal, podcast or seminar. So there's 1,000 more ways to get that
Mm-hmm.
experience that you need. And I remember the first time I got IBM was like, I just about died because they said, we're going to project you out to 75,000 people at the same time.
Wow.
And yeah, that was, people say,
That's
how did you get to speak to 3,000 groups and 3.5 million participants? And I was like, well, IBM gave me like a lot of them in the beginning, but it's because that was really new. But now you can be projected out to, all of their employees, their salespeople, their leaders, in India, in Africa, in China, in wherever it is that needs to be. I am so incredibly honored to have you as a part of the Inspiring Victory tribe at the Inspiring Victory Show. Please do us a favor. We really need your help. Please like, subscribe, share, write a comment. It makes a huge difference with how many people we can reach here at the Inspiring Victory Show, and it makes a big difference to me personally. I want to make sure that we're providing content to as many people as we possibly can so they can grow and succeed. So we'd love to have you continue your membership here at the Inspiring Victory Show. It's free. Helping us out costs nothing, but it makes a huge difference in how many people we can help. So double your business, double your impact, and change the world. And thank you so much for being a part of this extraordinary community. Thank you. Okay, so one of the things I remember that you taught me that I used for years was so you're doing as many pro bono freebie speeches as you can, because eventually people do come up and say to you, will you come in, we'll pay you a little bit. It is kind of a slow way to do it because the Rotaries are often filled with people who are maybe on the older age, may have already retired. So sometimes in the earlier days, I know that we could go and do that. And then maybe that company, the owner of that company would bring you in to speak. That's gotten a little trickier because of the age demographic has changed in some cities, not all cities, but it does work. It's just not as quick as it once was. But there's other ways to start getting in and getting speeches. And one of the tactics you taught me that I literally used for years, I hope you remember what I'm talking about when I tell you, it was you would get to the executive assistant and then you would send the big gorilla package with the camo all over it to the decision maker, the owner of the company or the president of the association. Always better to go for the owner of the company, the president of the association, than go through HR or go through the meeting planner, because they're much more terrified about making wrong decisions than the top brass are. But you had a strategy for getting into places and at least getting an audience, getting 5 minutes on the phone to say, hey, I don't know what you need, I don't know what you're looking for, but I know you have conferences coming up. If it's not me, I know a lot of speakers, maybe I can find you one, but how did you get the executive assistant to get you into that CEO or president association's calendar? Do you recall, or do you want me to tell you?
I think our success formula actually rewinds to an earlier age. I mean, when I first started, doing service club speeches, I had a giveaway. I made a deal with daytimers. They had, if you sent them a business card, they would give you a free 90-day sample kit to use their, scheduling planners. And so they would ship me these planners by the case. Mm-hmm. And the call to action at the end of the Optimus Club was, we would pass around one of those little wicker baskets that you put biscuits in. And the offer was, if you drop in the basket, we'll give you one of these 90-day daytimer planners so you can start using these principles right away. And then I would follow up on the business cards and, who are you and what do you do? And, oh, you manage a Buick dealership. Do you ever have sales meetings? Yeah, every week. You ever bring anybody in to pep up your sales meetings? Yeah. Could I do that? You just never know who's in the audience. I got invited to this lunch and learn thing at the community college, and they didn't have any money, and they weren't even going to give me lunch. And I was
Ooh.
really, feeling, resentful. And, why do I agree to this? Why am I so stupidly generous sometimes? I don't. And this guy comes up to me afterwards and says, "How'd you like to work in Australia?"
Nice
He was the
accent. I love it.
director of continuing education for the Canberra College of Advanced Education in the capital city. And he put me on a 7-city, 6-week tour to do a 2-day seminar in Australia.
You just never know. You never know.
I got invited back the next year to keynote the National Speakers Association International Convention in Australia. The year after that, I spoke at the International NSA Convention in New Zealand. While I was there,
Nice.
I told the sponsors, I said, I've spent way too much of my time in hotels. If you have members of your group or your community who, have a spare bedroom or, a bale of dry straw in the garage and a blanket, if you would. So we had these families host us for a week at a time. I went to Uluru, I went to Bondi, I was in the Sydney Opera House, I boxed with a kangaroo. It was an extraordinary.
You boxed with a kangaroo.
And I
Of
came
course
home,
you did.
and I came home 6 weeks later with money in my pocket, and it was a real breakthrough from this little, 45-minute lunch and learn at the community college. You never know.
You never know. And, that is a brilliant point. You never know who's in that audience, and you never know who that person knows. People also tend to forget that they have a whole, database of people, even if it's just 2, 3, 4, 500, 1,000 people. Those people know people, and most people don't ever bother to ask. Or on LinkedIn, you can look on LinkedIn and see, you can now see who people are connected to, and you can ask for help that way. So, we're hitting a time where it's easier to see who might be right for you and ask people for help. And I'm expanding my speaking business and I need your help. I noticed you're connected to Garcia. Could you please, maybe make an introduction? I would love to speak to that association that she's the head of or whatever. And it's just so funny that you never know. And people, I hear this a lot. Well, I want to get my speaking business up and off the ground. I'm doing a lot of consulting for a long time. Now I want to get my speaking, and I want to get myself out there, like they're headed to Mars or something. And the truth is that probably everything you need is in your own region, speaking at local places and talking to the people you already know around the country and around the world, and just over and over and over again saying, hey, if you were expanding a speaking business like I am, who do you think this kind of a program would really fit for? What would you call it? What benefit would it be to others? How you're smart, how would you market it? But most people just think they have to muscle it out and go out there to millions and millions of people, when in fact you get a list of 200 people that like you and that know you and respect you, and you ask them for that help, they're going to get you at least into some of those pro bono free speeches. They're going to connect you to association presidents, maybe locally, then move you on to the national. So I think there's always so much more there than people realize, because they don't, they don't see that on a regular basis.
Well, the first step is to get good. And the second step, I think, is to make sure that you deliver value. Patricia Fripp, right. CSP, CPAE, Speaker Hall of Fame, past president of the National Speakers Association. She coached me for several years. We coached each other actually back and forth over a span of our careers. And she said, well, what kind of audiences do you speak to? I said, well, mostly salespeople. Guerrilla Selling was
selling.
best-selling books. And she said, well, if you do that, how many people in your audience typically? I said, I don't know, 100. She said, well, and what's their average income per year? I don't know, $100,000 a year, to make the math easy. 100 times, she said, so if you take their annual income, drop the zeros, divide by 2, that's approximately how much their time is worth just for them to be in the room. That doesn't take into account the cost of the facility, the airfare, the bar tab, the golf tournament, all the rest that goes with that.
Hotel room, you,
If you're going to stand up in front of them, you better have something to say, and you better make every syllable count. Edit everything to the nub, and just deliver
Beautiful.
value, 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 value. You never tell a story just because it's funny. You never, go on about, my story. I want to tell my story to the world. Nobody cares about your
Mm.
story unless, you can share, a lesson from that experience that they can take out on the street and use it to make money today.
They're looking for wisdom. I mean, I would keep saying to everybody lately, the age of information is dead. You can get as much information on your mobile phone as you could ever possibly want, so much so that we now need Chat GPT to be able to sift it down to something manageable. What we're looking for is wisdom, something like you said, something actionable, something we can take out and use today to be able to be more successful. And, a lot of it is standing out in the sea of other speakers with something that's derivative, meaning in corporate, they only care about making their salespeople sell more or making their leaders lead better, really. I mean, there's a few other topics, but that's about it. In small to medium-sized businesses, all they care about is getting more business, more sales, more money, more cash, more clients, more customers, or controlling the beast that is their business if they're a little bit bigger. And then free time, though that's a little harder to sell people on. So, once you know what these different markets are trying to buy, then you can just find a way to say that in a way that has a slight little, that's derivative, slight little spin on it that maybe they haven't seen before, and you can really get in the door. My problem when I talk to speakers is telling them two things, and tell me if you agree with this. One is you're not always there to be dazzling. So your title, which you guys were so brilliant at that, coming up with double your business in 1 year or less for me. Thank you. Thank God. Thank you for you. You're not there to be dazzling. So you have to have something that is wisdom factor for them, something that is going to be so valuable, like you said, that it's worth $500,000 in those people's time for, but it's got to be something that can be communicated when you're not there. If there is a committee or if it is the president of the association telling a group of people, that's, I think that's the number one piece. What would you think would be the second piece that you need?
Well, it's got to be quotable. It's got to be Instagrammable. It's got to be Facebookable.
Yep. Right.
These days.
Sound bites. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great sound bites.
Smart speakers today do that from the
Yes.
stage. They say, okay, get out your phone now and post this to your LinkedIn account. Here's the lesson
right
from
now.
this section. And, rather than trying to fight for their attention span with the phone, taking advantage of the audience's ability to leverage and distribute your wisdom to a broader audience.
Which only helps them. So yeah, the other thing I always have to tell up and coming speakers, because I don't know if this happens to you still, but people will come up and be like, I want to be you when I grow up. And I think, oh, you poor thing. Really? Do you want to sleep on the floor in Cincinnati like I did a month ago? Really? You really want that? But yeah, but when they say that, it'll be interesting because they don't see the work that goes into some of this stuff. And I think it's how do you explain to people that how good you are and how much you work in the beginning aren't necessarily connected. They are in the sense that when you get good, that person sees you, that person notices it, and it will put you places. But it's also the people that market the best are the ones that win. And so that's a funny thing because we've all seen speakers. I have some people come up to me and they'll say, well, that guy wasn't that good. I'm better. And I'm like, yeah, but that guy is a marketing machine. So once you start to get good, you then have to become a marketing machine. How do you become a marketing machine, Orvel Ray Wilson?
Well, I'll give you an example. Kevin McCarthy he had considerable success in real estate. He ran the largest Century 21 franchise probably in the United States, based in Phoenix, sold it, took a job with another company in Seattle, worked with them for a year, and the CEO wound up being charged with the biggest Ponzi scheme in Oregon history.
Oh, horrible.
And he and a number of other employees got caught up in this, and he was charged with, and he was convicted for mail fraud.
Tough.
Spent 36 months in, a minimum security facility. Call it a prison is kind of a strong word, but he called it club fed.
Got it. Okay.
For a crime that he didn't knowingly commit.
Well, it
And
can happen though. It
and
can
all the
happen.
time he spent, behind the barbed wire, he kept kicking himself in the butt. How did I not see that coming?
Yeah.
Right? Because his defense was, I had no idea, and everybody else's response was, yeah, right. How could you not know? Blah.
You didn't.
It was
Yeah.
so blatantly obvious. And
Mm.
so shortly after his release, somebody referred him to me, and he said, how can I leverage this story into a speaking career? And
Mm.
so we started working together on this book, Blind Spots, and it's why
Ooh,
good people make
I
bad
love that.
choices.
I love
And
it.
part of it's based on his experience, but he also dissects some 20 different cognitive biases, everything from confirmation bias to presupposition bias to
Wow. Great book.
anyways, it's a marvelous book. I recommend it highly. And
Yeah.
within 2 months of his release, he had collected $28,000 in advance fees for speaking dates. Did well over $100,000 in speaking fees in his first year in the business. And he sent out an average of 168 emails a day, every day, every day, every day, every day. Went to a list broker, bought a list,
Mm-hmm.
short email. I'm Kevin McCarthy. I just spent 36 months in jail for a crime I didn't knowingly commit. And I'm, author of the forthcoming book at that point, Blind Spots.
Sure.
And I'd like to share my experience with your audience. And he took off like a rocket. But it was
Yeah.
hundreds of
Hundreds.
emails
Hundreds.
a
Yeah.
week.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, Marites Bott of Bott and Associates.
I'm so honored to get to be with our wonderful sponsor for the Inspiring Victory Show. And I want to make sure you know a little bit more about her and about what they do, because I think it'd be really helpful for all of us as business people and just in our personal lives. Marites does a lot of speaking, as many of you probably know, but I love one of the speeches that she's famous for, which is A Generous Legacy, the power of future-proofing your business and your personal life. And that's really what you are all about. So I want to talk a little bit about that with you. And can you give us an example of somebody who's come to you and how you were able to help them that might be able to help all of us as we navigate our financial planning as well as our estate planning for business and for personal?
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, thank you for having me, Sarah. I appreciate it. We do a lot of estate planning, obviously, as well as the financial planning for our clients. And a story that I think is a great way to showcase what we do is this wonderful couple that we met back in, I want to say 2015. They came in for a consultation. So they are certainly a wonderful couple, blended family. So second marriage for both of them. He has children and she does not. Basically, they were saying to me, Marites, I really want my estate plan to be secure. I want it to be ironclad so it goes to the right people. Particularly the wife was concerned that this money goes to her charities, which she was very, very active in and volunteers quite a bit. She puts her hard-earned money with them. And she also wants to make sure her husband is taken care of as well. So she wanted to do both objectives at the same time. We were like, of course we can help you with that. We want to make sure that we write everything down and just like you said, make it ironclad so that there's no contest. There's nobody trying to get to the money inappropriately. Right. So we created a wonderful estate plan for them. So that was 2015. Now, sadly, she unexpectedly passed a few years later. And her surviving spouse came to us and he really needed help. He was so, of course, distraught and super, super sad. But he was also very concerned about the financial pieces. He wasn't that familiar with financial instruments. There was 13, 14, 15 accounts that she had. And of course, he was like, I'm confused. What do I do with all of this? So we said, okay, we're going to take care of you. We got this. And we were able to really take a hold of all those instruments and all those accounts. And on our financial side of our business, we were able to consolidate them, invest it in very prudent investments, and make sure it's easy for him to manage. So we were able to do that within 3 to 6 months. His late wife's wishes of him being able to live on that money and then eventually at his death give it to her charities is exactly what's going to happen. So wonderful to be able to plan it properly, give her peace of mind. A few years later, we're honoring 100% of her wishes. This money is not going to go to anybody inappropriately, and her beneficiaries, her charities, are going to be so happy to be able to get this money upon his death, because he is still able to live on that income. So I love those stories, because to me, we work so hard. We sacrifice daily, right? We work so hard, and we want to be able to take our money and be able to give it to people that we love and charities that we believe in.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us. I always enjoy spending time with you. And yeah, you're one of the people I always find so much value in talking to. You're just walking integrity, and you're a good soul, and you help people. You help people. So thank you for being on the show again, and for sharing with us, and for always doing such a great job for everybody. And now that you're able to do even more and be more of a one-stop shop to help people with all these different issues, I think your company and you are even more valuable. Thank you so much. Always lovely to see you. Marites Bott and Associates. If it's something that you need, be sure and contact Marites right away. Thank you.